friends. It's awesome to be here again with you today. It is Friday, and I just want to say thank you all for being here and your willingness and availability to talk about some important topics. So, welcome and happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Thank you. Thank you. So today we're going to be talking about something very, very important, and it's really highlights all of us. It affects all of us at whatever transition, whatever point of your career journey that you're traveling through at this point. And the topic of conversation will cover getting paid what you're worth, strategies to ensure competitive compensation. Really, the highlighted topics that we're going to be talking about will be shared by my co-host team and my lovely co-host to include Mr. Bob Britz. Hi, Bob.
Morning.
Good morning. And Bob is the founder of Career Coach Services and creator of the Career Coach System, a proven process to help people find meaningful, fulfilling, and financially rewarding employment. I'm also joined by my co-host, Irina Deutscheva, BA certified career coach. Irina is a TTI Success Insights, DISC certified, TTI Motivator certified, and career coach certified career advancement expert. Irina is dedicated to inspiring confidence in her clients, guiding them towards meaningful, fulfilling, and financially rewarding careers. Irina serves clients in the greater Chicago, Illinois region, as well as working with clients across the U.S. and internationally. Welcome, Irina.
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And the legendary Philip Mangenko. Am I pronouncing that correct? I think I just did a terrible job at pronouncing your lovely last name.
You know, that works, but I prefer legendary, so we'll keep the legendary part.
the legendary Philip. How about that?
That works.
Philip is an executive and career coach. He helps directors and VPs build ideal careers without starting over. Philip helps career job seekers thrive in today's world and help high achievers find ideal careers without starting over. He specializes in career advancement, career development, and using your network effectively and differently to find work without applying online with no responses. His specialty areas include healthcare, finance, technology, and 70 other roles. Philip will help you find your next job within 5 to 9 weeks on average. And my name's Kevlin Pascos, business development marketing strategist with over 20 years of expertise in helping businesses grow massive revenue through innovative initiatives. Well, I just am really excited about this topic. I know that this is something that you three specialize in. This is your passion and purpose, and you've helped, I want to say collectively at Career Coach, over 9,000 professionals obtain careers. So let's start off, and I'm going to let you take it away, and let's get started.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Kevlin. You guys have, in case you haven't noticed, Philip and Irina, I work in the same company, Career Coach Services. So you're going to get a lot of good help here today going through the process. Kevlin and I have known each other for at least 20, if not more years, going way back. And so it's just a pleasure to be on the call with her. Today, we're going to talk about your worth. What are you really worth out there? And worth has a lot of different factors to it. Some of it's economic. Other it's your role in the family and the role in the community that you play as well. So it's a lot of different things. But Kevlin's going to pop up a screen for us. I want to talk about a couple of things here about wages and worth. Now, all of us have the number one role in this table. We're the primary worker. You're the primary worker if you're single. You're a primary worker if you're the single parent. You're a primary worker if you're the one of the two in a partnership who's bringing in the majority of the income as we go through this. Now, we've had lots and lots of layoffs this year, tons of layoffs. And we saw a lot of people that were in the tech space, get their 6-month severance from the gigantic tier 1 company. And they go, I'm going off to Europe for 3 months to enjoy my severance package and coming back and saying, I want my job. And guess what? Those jobs aren't there anymore. All of them have stepped their way down the food chain to where a lot of people in the bottom are being pushed out. A lot of people in the middle are having difficulty. So without a career coach helping you plan that, you can find yourself hitting a lot of walls right now in tech, probably for the next 18 to 24 months. But there's also been finance, especially real estate's having a challenge right now. Yellow Truck closed, which is a trucking line. We're seeing restaurants closing, hundreds of restaurants in different areas around the country for different reasons. And so we're still in this turmoil of things. And real wages haven't really increased much since about 2000 in real terms, if you count inflation. And of course, the steep inflation that we're having now makes it even worse. So let's look at this from the perspective of, I'm making some money and I want my partner to also get a job. So the first person makes, let's say, $250. Now, that may seem a lot if you're in one state. It may seem like it's a little in another state. But on average, across the country, we see lots of people in kind of that bucket. The taxes we pay at that level are about 45%. So this person is going to drop $112,500 between their state, and their federal, and then some other taxes they may owe county-wise or locally for themselves. They're probably commuting about 25 miles to their job. That's a pretty average commute in the U.S. I've seen some studies that show that costs about $795 per mile one way per year. So this person's spending about $20,000 just for the pleasure of driving their car to and from the office. Now, when you add all that up and you make your deductions, their net pay is about $117,600. Divide that by 2,080 hours for the average 40-hour week, 50 per week per year. That person's making $57 per hour take home. That's about 60% of what they actually got paid in the gross $250. Now, let's say you have a couple of kids, and when you're having kids, most people have to do a couple things. Hopefully, they have a parent or a friend who will do some daycare for them in the early months. But most people turn to full-time daycare so they can then go work somewhere else. So in the second scenario here, the second worker typically does not make as much as the first worker. I've seen some families where both people are professionals and they both earn about the same. Very unusual, probably 1 in 50 fits that scenario. And if you make a ton more, like Irina was mentioning earlier when we were talking about this, if you make $1 million a year, this whole illustration doesn't matter that much because you have excess of funds. But if you work within the average American box in the middle, this person might get about $90,000 for the second job. That's not an unfair wage. It's a decent wage. It used to be enough wage to buy a lot of things, but anymore it's not quite so much. But they unfortunately still are subject to the same 45% tax charge because it's based on all of the income for the family. So they're dropping 40,000 of that 90 into taxes. Then they have a job that's 15 miles away. Let's give them a little bit of shorter commute. So they're only spending about 12,000. Oh, but now you have to pay for daycare for kids for 5 days a week. And nationally, it can range anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 per kid per month. Average is about $2,000, so there to speak. So $36,000 for 2 kids is probably a little low, but it's in the ballpark. That leaves them making a net income of $1,500. Wait a minute, that can't be right. Well, 90 minus 40 minus 11 minus 36. Yep, sure enough. That person's earning $1,575 for the entire year and netting 76 cents per hour. That's not even minimum wage. That's not even close to minimum wage. So they're only getting a fraction of what they're earning in that second job. Now, if that second worker works from home, and it could be either of the two people, it could be the main breadwinner could work at home or the secondary breadwinner can work at home. But look what happens. You have the same tax deduction, but your commute goes away. So that's 20 grand right there off the top. That's not happening. And instead of spending $36,000 for childcare, you might spend $1,200 to have a tutor come in for 2 or 3 hours after school between that time and dinner time to take care of the kids and watch the kids while you finish up your work on screen in your office or whatever you're doing. Now, what does that do for your family? Well, the one second person can take the kids to school, pick up the kids from school, take a break. They can work an extra hour after dinner if they have to. But the family gets to get together and have dinner together and bedtime and bath time and prayer time and whatever you do at night with your kids and your time with your partner and time with your Peloton that you spent so much money for. All of this happens when one person can work from home. And that's what's happening now. 58% of our clients actually work from home. So either whether you're trying to get a second job or you're trying to get an advancement and you're working to change jobs to get an advancement and it's more commute and farther away and all these different things, you really have to think about the value that you're bringing to the table for your family and your relationships before you do that. So when we think about value and wages, Irina has spent her life good portion of her life. She
That's
started when she was
fair.
5 years old. 5 years old, she was doing the math on no, but she's been doing wage calculations and wage setting now for many, many years in the corporate life. So I'm going to turn this over to Irina to take this from here.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you for highlighting this table because it visually represents some of the things that I'm sure you and Philip and I and many other people we have those discussions with our clients very often, especially if you have multiple offers, which for some of you may not be the case today, but I promise you the market is still alive and people do get offers and people get multiple offers. So speaking of offers and speaking of value, how do we prepare we all have a number in mind, and I know you have a number in mind and I have a number in mind, and we all have a number in mind of what we want to make next year. But before we even address any number, we need to look in the mirror and say, who am I and what do I bring to the table? What kind of talents and gifts, what kind of experiences, what kind of perspectives I bring to this organization, to this team. Oftentimes people jump into a number, but they don't think about, hey, am I managing people? How long what kind of time would this take away from my day? Am I managing 500 emails a day? What am I doing? Who am I? What do I want in life? Do I want to leave at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and call it a day? Or do I prefer to work until 5:30 just because I like my job? So there's a lot of those things happening, but I'm here to kind of make one simple point. Understand yourself better and how you're so unique before you meet someone. Because they will ask you, tell me about yourself. They will ask you, what have you been doing in the past 5-10 years? You need to have an answer. A lot of my clients don't have an answer. They're like, I have no idea what I'm doing here and I just want a paycheck. Well, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to provide a value that you bring so that employer or potential team will, if they don't see your value, they're not going to give you their best offer. So having said that, before you even, again, speak to a number, you're going in for an interview and you are trying to do one thing at first. You're trying to mimic, and I'm sorry, not mimic, but find a dialogue between the two, you and the other party, and figure out what is this position all about? What is the role all about? So the expectations, what are you expecting me to do? Let's say we'll take a senior financial analyst. Senior financial analyst in one company can be so different than a senior financial analyst in a different company. Because and this is something that Bob mentioned, I'm very passionate about because I've done pay ranges for a long time, from anyone over from an analytical level to a senior VP level. So before any company sets up the pay grade, they are going through what is this person going to be doing. And again, in compensation, people, professionals, we evaluate the role, not the person. I just want to make that distinguishment because the pay ranges are set per the role, not per the person. So you need to understand why in one company, a senior financial analyst can make, let's say, X amount of dollars, and the other position in a different company can pay X amount plus $30,000 a year because the scope of the company is different. So maybe the company size matters. Is it a huge corporation? Is it a small startup? What are your responsibilities? Are you handling just one local state, or are you handling the US, or are you handling the whole wild world for them? Like, what are you doing? What is it that you need to do? So walk into that conversation with a clear idea of, I'm just here to figure out who you are and what are you requesting of me? Am I managing 10 people or 55 people? Do I have direct reports? Do we work on projects? Do we travel? What would you like me to do every single day? Because I just want to do the best thing I can. So when you know the responsibilities, then you can assess, okay, what is the price tag on this? Am I committing to this or to this or to this? When you know more about the role, then you can think about your salary. Just don't go in there having a number because this number may be too low or too high, and you don't know that yet. So I know that this is just a wider conversation, but I'll pause here and I'll turn it over to Philip because I would love to see his perspective on things. But that's just kind of how I see it. Know your value, but also know what you're going in for.
I mean, I 100% agree. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kevlin.
Oh no, Philip, I'm so sorry, but those were excellent points, Irina, and especially for the unique differentiators that you have to bring to the table. It's like that is not the time to be shy. It's not the time to ponder about what you're going to say, and that's something that your team is so valuable in the preparation aspects of going into an interview. And I love what you said about knowing the scope, because I will tell you just firsthand, as a business development marketer, I see roles all the time. Like, I didn't know that there was the combination of words that they use. That's very crafty. That's very creative, right? And that's just marketing and business development. So exactly what you just said, the financial analyst piece. What does that mean? What is the director of marketing and product development, or what so the title doesn't necessarily mean everything, but like you're right, it's so important to know the scope. Is it a mom and pop, or like you said, is it the whole wide world? Is it 100% travel? Is it remote? So I feel that, again, with your preparation and what you do and what you bring to the table as far as supporting candidates, it helps them be more comfortable when these situations happen, so that you've got the response. And whether it's $100,000 a year or $700,000 a year, maybe the 700, like you said, that's the whole wide world. Maybe the 200's the mom and pop remote. So there's definitely some factors in that, and I feel that there's probably an eloquent way of addressing and crossing those conversational bridges with the help of you and your team to move forward with that. So great job on letting us know those points to consider for sure. And Philip, over to you.
No, thanks. No, I mean, I 100% agree, because I think nowadays, and this has really changed since I started coaching, and I imagine for all of us coaches on here and what you've seen out there, it's almost like what I find now, employers are almost expecting you to negotiate. So
Yep.
if you are coming to the table either not knowing your value or not prepared, it's kind of not in your interest. So it's not just what we've been saying here, but how can you just get more prepared? So it's really in a way, what I find into all the stuff about knowing your value, it's also on the other side too of as Irina's saying here, knowing the scope of the role, what are you exactly contributing? And then to even add in those points there, what I'll often work with clients doing one-on-one, and we do this all here on the team, is let's get really into the data of the company as well. For example, we'll go onto salary.com or one of those sites to really look at,
Right.
as we're mentioning, what's the scope of the role, or scope of the role on average, to see overall, hey, what's this role paying for those kinds of things. Additionally, depending on if it's a public or a private sector company, if it's a public sector, you can look up their financials, you can look up those things. I've helped clients negotiate for higher ed, and you usually see those pay bands as well. If we're going into a government as well, you can see those, negotiate for what those are going to be. If it's more of a private sector, same thing. Depending on what those might be, you're able to see when's the last time an organization paid out their bonuses, those kinds of things. And I think it's more of, you can't go into any type of negotiation conversation without having, hey, what's this role on average pay? How much have I my value? What am I worth? And then let's look at the financial health of this organization overall, and somewhat even the industry to a certain perspective, right? If we're going to go into a industry that's on the decline, more than likely the company's not going to be giving us as much as we would think. And if we're going one on the incline, or one that's growing, much more likely. So it's also the past history of not just the company, but also the industry. How likely have they been able to do these things? So in a way, that's one way to think about it. And the other way that I also tell people to think about it too is, and this is what we help with people with on their resume, but even from an interview negotiation stand pieces, really quantifying your contributions. Meaning, usually I'll work with people to go, hey, how has your role really contributed to the financial success of the organization? Meaning, the easy example here is sales, right? If I get insert number of sales numbers, that usually contributes to this much of the bottom line. So then we're able to negotiate based on that, based on the role, but how much you've been able to contribute, not just in the past, but also for future earnings as well. So it's really also making sure that you really understand from a financial component, what were you able to actually contribute to the overall health of the organization? And knowing that, your value, knowing the financial health of the organization, the history of how they've negotiated, how they have not negotiated, whatever that might be, and then also moving into, well, here's what I've done in the past, and here's my proof, and here's what I can do for you moving forward, just armors you up to having a different level of conversation than most HR compensation people are usually prepared for, which just benefits you.
That's awesome what you said about the sales aspect of it, because that's
Right.
part of my history, and
Mhm.
it's something that I've learned over time where they don't wanna hear that you sold $7 million in a year. They might be requiring you to sell $70 million. So $7 million might actually not get you the next appointment or the next meeting.
Yeah.
So what I've been taught is to do percentages, how much of a percentage growth that you helped contribute to the company, because especially in sales, you're what you're able to bring in versus maybe the CFO or accounting or admin or these other folks. They're more of a fixed cost, and sales is really the bread and butter of the revenue that's been able to be brought in. And so
Mhm.
I would recommend, if you're going to show off your accomplishments, do it in percentages, not in actual dollar value.
Yeah. And if I may just jump in on that, I've spent about 7 or 8 years of my career supporting sales compensation. So that's a whole vast different topic. But even within commissions, it's so important to know what you're selling, what the goals are, what the intentions are. To Phil's point about know what is your purpose there, and are you a visionary who's going to support the company? Are you a legendary? Since this is a trend of a word today,
That's right.
who are you? Because some bonus plans could be 100% commissions. Some of
Mhm.
them could be salary plus commission plus a percent plus of
Mhm.
something. So again, just even within that space of sales, know what you're selling. For example, if you sell mattresses to a hospital does not buy mattresses every single month, but
Mhm.
hospital buys gloves. So there's a difference of your strategy in terms of sales and
Yeah.
what you've done in the past. So again, always know the business. Just wanted to put a little side note there.
Yeah, just to add to that, one of the things I coach people that are going into sales to do is to find out what the sales cycle looks like. And then Rena's touching on that. Does it take 2 months to sell mattresses, or if you're in education and development, or you're in government sales at the enterprise level, you might be marketing and meeting people for 18 months to 2 years before the sales drop. And I've had numerous enterprise sales reps leave that segment because they just can't make any money fast enough, and then they burn up their ramp within 6 months, and they're floating for 12 more months after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful knowing what the sales cycle is, how long it takes to get a customer warmed up to the point where they do make a sale, and then what's the delivery time, and do you get paid on delivery or do you get paid on purchase order? All these things are factors that go into how that whatever that number that Irina's created for you that looks so great, how do you get there is the question.
Mhm.
I'd like to add to that too, Bob, where you might have this enterprise amazing opportunity, and it's like, wow, I'm an enterprise rep and I get to travel and what have you. And so what you're probably going to do is you're going to go and you're going to burn through your contacts. You're going to burn through your people that you want to sell to, right? And so I would really put caution to the air on that, where when you are starting with a new company, understand what the scope is, understand what your responsibility is before you sign the document,
Mhm.
before you sign the contract, because the last thing you want to do is like what Bob just said, be in a really awesome position and not sell anything because the sales cycles are so long, or it's not really something that you could tap into your existing network to sell to,
Right,
because it's something that they're not buying mattresses, they're buying masks, right? So it's
right.
I've done that. I am very careful to use my network now because it's special. They're white kid gloves at this point because you bring somebody in that could ruin a relationship pretty quickly. And then
Mhm.
say they buy mattresses and you leave the company, they don't trust you anymore. So
One other thing, quick thing, when we're doing job offer reviews, things like that, I made a mistake once in my negotiations. I'm pretty good at negotiating my wages, and I was working for a major software company at the time. This is back around 2003, and they gave me a very generous offer, but I knew that the marketplace was higher than that. So I negotiated $30,000 more than the offer was, and that was a significant amount of money as well. And I got the job and got the offer. Everything went through. And then my boss just was so distant from me and just wasn't helping me, wasn't contacting me. He lived in a different state, all this kind of stuff. And then I found out that I was getting paid more a year than he was because I negotiated beyond his salary accidentally. So be careful what you ask for sometimes. It can come back to bite you in the long run.
So I like the bonuses, the commission aspect of it, Phil and Irina. I feel that that's something that you definitely have to take into consideration. Is it split? And I will tell you, as a sales historically, it's so hard to understand the bonus structure and the commission structure. They make it so darn confusing that you have to be a scientist to understand really what it means. So really take the time and rely on a peer or a mentor that specializes in commissions and bonuses to see if that is actually, and your
Mhm.
team as well. I know that you will help with that, but that can mean a lot. That can make you you're working for nothing sometimes, or you're working for where there might be some significant payouts when the bonus and the commissions are due to you.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So I think we were on, let's see, consider total compensation. I believe that Irina and Philip
Mhm.
have touched on that. So let's talk about be prepared to walk away.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think it's one of these things in here that before we were getting on the call, we each had stories around clients who, maybe they don't have a job or maybe they do, doesn't necessarily matter as much, especially when you don't have a job. It's much harder to walk away. But at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is knowing your value and understanding the total compensation and really understanding the company. So if at the end of the day, you don't feel like you're getting a good win, or that they're giving you a number and it just doesn't feel good, even if you don't have a job, it's usually time to walk away. And I mean, we all have clients, we all have stories, probably number of stories of people who have walked away from an offer, even though they might not have an offer yet from another company or multiple offers, because it just doesn't really meet what they're looking for.
Mhm.
So typically when we're working with clients, or when I'm working with a client one-on-one, it's really, we give the strategies, we give the tactics, we give the mindsets, but at the where it really matters and where the rubber meets the road and where this coaching matters so much is holding out for the right offer with the right stuff. And I think so many times, so many people, like most of the clients I work with, they have never negotiated, or they're just, negotiations not their topic or things. Yeah, right. And it's just like they get to the end point, and it's like you're running a race the whole time, and then there's that moment that you get really close to the finish line, and then they'll almost trip up, and then like that's the picture they take right when you pass.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really knowing at that point when you need to walk away and holding steady to that, because it comes really hard. And like I said, for most of our coaching sessions, we're really helping you make sure you are not negotiating essentially against yourself or entering in a lose-lose battle or anything like that.
And that's priceless. And your team, like, just correct me if I'm wrong, but you're there to hold their hand the whole process, right? You've got
Yeah.
the really the intake where the alignment calls where you understand what their goals and needs and what they strive to do. There's assessments. I know that there's assessments that are option as well. And then the whole time where you might have communications or to help them with prompting, because most people are not good at this. So you probably have questions like, should I send it? Like they haven't sent anything back. They haven't sent anything back. What should I do? What should I do? And so that I mean, what you just said, to be there for your clients, to hold their hand during this process, to bounce ideas off of versus going solo and second guessing and making
Mhm.
mistakes and not getting the opportunity, whether you wanted it or not, where at least you can have the leverage and use it as practice, but to
Right.
have you and your team back your clients with expertise and the specialization which you do. I commend you because it's not easy, and I'm sure 9,000 professionals placed have greatly appreciated your
Mhm.
specialization. So
Yeah.
And if I may add just a quick note on the walkaway factor, because and I do have another additional point. I don't know if we'll have the time on the comp site, but when we talked about the scope, right? Because we talked about the responsibilities, the money, what am I doing here? Certain times the interview process seems long, but sometimes it's quite short. And if you are in a more senior position, and it seems that Phil and I are kind of supporting very similar group, senior directors and above, you walk into a group that you're supposed to manage, but you've never met the team. You've just
Yeah.
met the
Mhm.
key players in
Yeah.
the executive team, but you haven't met the people that you're going to be supporting and helping out each and every day. So even though you have the offer and it sounds great, a part of your negotiation can be, listen, I need 2 more meetings with the extended team. I
Yep.
am not ready to sign off on this offer until I meet the full team.
Yep.
Yep.
This just could be something, again, little, but to Philip's point, this is where we brainstorm with our clients. This is what coaching is. It's just not about, hey, can you get my resume done? Absolutely. I mean, sure, we're licensed and capable to do that, but what else is there? And this is where it becomes really important.
Mhm.
And so I just wanted to say this on the walking aside. But if I can also add on the total comp piece very quickly, it's always about the money, but it's not always about the money. The benefits are incredibly important today because every time we need to go to a doctor, it's very important to know what the cost would be. Or long-term incentives. Some people take a great salary amount, but they are actually focused on the long-term investments. And this is what really creates for them their financial stability in retirement, especially in the US, because my European clients, they had pensions. US companies don't pay pensions anymore, not,
Yeah.
not as much.
Yep.
So my long-term investments are what I'm in here for. And some executive positions, they actually require you to keep a certain stock in just because you're like a visionary part of the company, you're leading the team. So they actually require you to buy specific number of shares or stocks within the company. So if the price goes down, you're in the you're in a financial hurdle. So just there's much more than the salary, much more than the insurance, much more than the commute, much more than the care. Just
Mhm.
focus on your specific situation and then find me, Philip, Bob, or anyone else, and let's talk about this because it's just more important than ever that we secure our financial stability today and in 10 years and in 20 years.
An
can
example when you start looking at the different things in the wages, I always tell people, look at the offer with the context of what can you spend tomorrow.
Mhm.
You can't spend your bonus tomorrow. You can't spend the 401k contribution tomorrow. You can't pay, the stock. You can't spend that tomorrow. But your package is 300,000. Yeah, but your spendable is 150. So you'd be very, very careful about getting excited about a number that isn't so real. And if you're like most Americans, you're changing jobs between 2.8 and 3.8 years. If you're under 3 years, guess what goes away? That 401k contribution they're going to make goes away. The vesting of your stock options goes away. And suddenly those non-spendables become completely gone when you leave because they expire and you can't get those back. So you be very careful about getting overexcited about the economics and not asking the question that Rian's talking about. I want to interview with a peer, someone who will talk straight to me. I want to see my team. Sometimes I want to interview face-to-face with my boss. I haven't met my boss yet. All this stuff could happen very easily in the interview process. And if you're not paying attention, you can walk into something you don't really want to be involved in.
Well, and a bad boss, Bob, is I can pretty much identify a bad boss within about 5 minutes, and that would be so disappointing if you went
Hmm.
through all of this process and you didn't ask to meet what Irina and Bob just said about the extended leadership team or who you might be working or who might be your direct report. And he's somebody that you know his personality and it's not a good fit, and then you're stuck, and then obviously that's probably not going to work out long term. So it's not uncommon to ask to be interviewed or interview the rest of the team, especially folks that you might be reporting to. So those are great points. I want to bring up a story, and this is a little, it's relatable, but Caitlin Clark, I think you know her name, the all-star #1 draft pick for WNBA. So there was a bunch of squawk about her low salary because the guys were making, in the millions or what have you. And she's bringing home, I think, 76,000. Phil, maybe you could correct me on this.
Oh, I
Her
don't know.
contract
Go
was
ahead.
for the next 4 years.
Oh,
It was like 75,000, 80,000, 85,000. It was like kind of, and it was like the whole internet was, ablaze. And then yesterday I saw that Nike is about to cut her an endorsement deal, likely in about the tune of $20+ million.
Wow.
So she doesn't care about that little salary. Like you just said, Irina, it's about the money, but sometimes it's not about the money. And you don't think she knew that coming in? And she's like, I don't care what you pay me. I know what's coming in behind this. So you really have to look at all of the benefits, the bigger picture of things, and whether it's the investment, whether it's the benefits, whether it's the pay, the commute. Do you have help with the kids? Do you have to relocate? Can you work remote? Is it in office, et cetera, et cetera? And I know your team is really the core that can get those folks and your future clients over the finish line to greatness and finding their perfect careers.
I just let
So,
a quick story, just very for a minute there, if you don't mind.
yeah.
Speaking of benefits, real situation, real client. My client was expecting his first baby. He was currently working, but he didn't like where he's at, so he wanted to move on to something more exciting. The only thing that was preventing him from leaving his work was that after the baby's born, he'll have 4 weeks of paternity leave.
Hmm.
And I said, well, imagine if there is anything better out there. And he thought I'm crazy at first. But anyways, he went and he interviewed a few companies. And one of the offers stated that he will have his paternity leave after 1 month of employment, not a year after. So 1 month, and then he will get 12 weeks, even though he was not the birthing parent.
Yep.
So my client
Wow.
was jumping through the roof because not only he got a new job, but he got 12 weeks of paternity versus 4 after 1 month of employment versus the typical 1 year of employment. So I just wanted to tell you that anything's possible, you guys.
Yeah.
Like anything's possible.
Yeah.
No, this is an amazing conversation. And Bob, I think you wanted to contribute another point there.
Well, just at the we talked about this before about tier 1 companies and tier 2 companies. Tier 1 companies are the ones that pay you, $450,000 to be a level 3 engineer, which is extremely high, and they have 175,000 employees. Well, that 175,000 employees can drop to 140 really quickly because with a strike of a pen, as you've seen in the last 2 years, all those people are gone. People often will commute an hour to 2 hours to sometimes 3 hours to those corporations to get their job and then commute home 3 more hours. And what they don't realize is that between where they live and the main corporation, there's tier 2 companies that are 5,000 employees or 3,000 employees that will pay them almost the same as the big company because they have to for the same talent. They may not be extreme like that, but they'll be pretty darn close. And the commutes, and there's down the street, it's 5-10 minute drive to this 3-story building that's been there that they drive past every morning going to their commute to their big city job. And people just don't realize that 85% or more of the corporations are not in big cities.
Hmm.
They're all around you. And so think about that when you're looking for new work.
And you could ride your bike and get in shape.
Yeah, unless it's snowing.
And you don't have to use gas or anything, right? Well, I know there's more points of this, but there's one thing that I really wanted to highlight again is the expertise and specialization of your team. And it's not just for this particular career. I know you have clients that maybe are 10, 15, 20 years that you've worked with. So this is a relationship with Career Coach, and
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
coach you end up aligning with and working with, it could be just introductions right now. And maybe I'm not looking for another couple months because of XYZ, or it might be something where you're immediately looking, or you're laid off, or you've been in a role for 10 years and you're just looking for, somewhat of a change. So I know that you guys have been there, Bob. We go back 20 years, and you've been through a few of my careers, and vice versa. But you guys are there for the long haul, and that's what Career Coach is really, the reputation is built upon, and the legacy to help folks well into the future, not just transactional. So I do want to highlight that. So as we are winding down of this amazing topic, I wanted to hand back the mic to you three. And if there's anything in closing that you would like to contribute, now is a really good time to do so.
Philip?
We have lots of really good points here, and we talked about, knowing your value, doing research on the company, and those kinds of things. I think the last big thing that I would add is it's also how you have the conversation as well. We're all here talking about the data and those data pieces and things like that. But at the end of the day, this is something that I've learned through all my years of coaching, and like we said, working with thousands of people, and a career coach helping 9K people, all those kinds of things. But essentially, we also have to make it feel like a win-win, not just a win on your side, but they also have to feel like they're winning too. And
Yeah.
I think most people really overlook that. And it's how effectively do you have the conversation, right? We could sit you and have you exactly say the right thing, and that's not always going to go over well. But it's actually much more about, are you having the right emails? Are you having the right calls? Do you have the right tone? Are you picking up the phone instead of sending an email? And are you having that in a way that is more collaborative instead of just give me this because I want this, all those kinds of things. So we have to really make sure we're having that conversation that feels like a win back and forth. And again, that's what we specialize here in. I've out of many, many different things, but that's the nuance of having a coach versus not having a coach, is
Right.
your ability to have that level of conversation and to make it feel like a win on their side.
Night and day.
Night and day.
Mhm.
Yep.
So
Adina.
beautiful. I think I can resonate. I totally resonate with what Philip is saying, because I believe in alignment. And this is what he said: tone, voice, priority, and make sure that there's the two sides of the coin are winning. And to add to that, I know we spoke about really negotiating your value and accepting an offer, but some of you may be in a position where you're not you're not moving to a different company. You maybe are ready for a promotion and you really want to stay there. So, as coaches, we can help you guys too. There's no need for you to look for a different type of role. We can help with your career growth. And just one note there, in my opinion, promotions need to come naturally, but you need to be prepared for them, and you need to have the right communication with your manager one-on-one every single week.
Yep.
Let them know your career goals. Let them know where you would like to be in a year, 2 or 3, because people listen. And we don't just get up and ask for a promotion. We set the right tone. We set the right environment. We bring the value. We demonstrate our uniqueness, our authenticity within the department. And when we become a valuable part of that department, then the promotion, the pay, the job title change just comes naturally. So if you need us, me, anyone to help you, guide you through this, we can guide you through what are retention bonuses, what are sign-on bonuses, what a one-time off-cycle pay increase is. Of course, companies work with budgets, and just be respectful of that. But there is so much out there that we can help with, not just to take a new role, but how can I grow where I am if I love my role? So
Excellent point. And thank you for adding that.
Great. Yeah, it's interesting. Being in Career Coach, we have a lot of highly trained coaches. We have 24 offices right now, 23 US, one in Vienna, Austria. So if you really want to go to Austria and meet a coach, we can arrange that for you. But the point is that Irina's background, every coach has a specialty area. Irina's is compensation. Philip's is executive development. And all of our coaches have the entire training of career coach and all the certifications that we offer, which are far broader than the standard certifications you might see on someone's resume. They include certifications on the assessments we do and things like that. But the point is that we can take an offer letter, and everybody does this when the offer letter comes in. They grab their happy pin, right? And the first thing they want to do is they want to sign that offer letter and get it back, right? No, there are 40 different things we look at, 40 within an offer letter. Starts off with the basic 5 or 6 and starts to finger its way through to all the topics we just talked about today. Kevlin's commission schedules, internal compensation bonuses, executive advancements. All these things have to be looked at in the context of what that offer letter is giving you. And oftentimes it's very short. And you have to go back and ask those questions of the employer to really be able to succeed. So if you want to meet with Irina or Philip, both of them offer a free consultation. You can just go to our website, careercoachservices.com, and click on the link and book a time with them. They'll be glad to chat with you. And if you want to chat with our other coaches, they're also available with their bios, so you can read about who they are as well. So, Kevlin, thanks again so much for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And make sure you put the career coach information in the comments, please. And we'll be reaching out to you if there's anything that you have questions about and you're not quite ready for an alignment call. Please go ahead and go to any of our LinkedIn pages. You'll see our little circle profile picture. Right underneath that is contact information. Go ahead and feel free to send any one of us or all of us. You could include all of us if you want, personalized DM, and we'll answer any questions that you might have if you're kind of just feeling things out a little bit and not quite ready to move forward. We'd love to hear from you, and if there's any help that we can provide, we would like to be that resource for you. So you guys, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and more to come with these important topics on getting you to your next career move or raise. And I look forward to that. And just again, thank you all for your time today.
Appreciate you.
Bye, everyone. Have a great weekend.